Hello, welcome back to our probing session into the unexplained. As we seem to be probing deeper into the poor people that have been abducted and probed in a probing kind of way, Yvette seems to think that anal probing was the way they did it. I think it's otherwise. But have aliens landed? Have they taken people? And if so, why?
Well, we're such a strange species, aren't we? Really?
Yeah, we are. I mean, there are plenty of people out there, like I say, sane people that have said that they have been visited and that these aliens come into the bedroom and they take them off and then they come back the following morning battered and bruised around, you know, and they're a real mess.
I've had nights like that myself, but it had nothing to do with aliens.
Like that.
You see now, but it's very interesting. When we were talking, you know, on before, and I think on the other programme that we did, it was very serious, wasn't it?
Yeah,
as soon as you mention alien abduction, you get all cheeky and start getting, and it's all a bit of a giggle and a bit of a laugh. And there are people with serious problems out there that have been very badly hurt.
No, I agree that some of them have got very, very serious problems, but I don't think it's got anything to do with alien abduction.
I quite like that. I think it's you were talking about that story of time travel, and our aliens actually us in the future coming back. I'd never heard that before, and I went home that night and I laid in bed and thought about that for a long time.
You thought about me in bed at night?
I thought about you in bed. No, I thought I thought that's an avenue I've never thought of, and actually it sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Because they can't show themselves.
Well, time travel, as just quick explanation, I've always said this thing about time travel, that time travel is possible. We see it on a daily basis. You look up into the sky, you can see a shooting star. That is very much could be a planet that died out 1 million years ago. But the light's only just got to us, so we're only just seeing it now, although that actually happened 1 million years ago, or 100,000 years ago. So we are then looking back in time. We're seeing something that happened in the past. So that is time travel. Yeah, so if you can enhance light, you can enhance time travel. So the only thing you can't do with time travel is interact with it. Yeah, look at Back to the Future. You'd have all sorts of problems. But if in the future, some way, they've enhanced light as a way of travel and they can go faster than that, then surely on that premise you can actually come back in time and view something that's already occurred. But because it's not really there, you can't interact with it because it had already gone, but you've gone back in time to see it. Therefore, is that not all the different cigar shapes and all the different flying saucers, different companies in the future who have enhanced this, coming back just to have a view of us, that's why they don't all land. Because I can't believe the amount of sightings of spaceships seems to be so many of them, but hardly any of them seem to land. And if they do, they seem to crash. I mean, they probably got the same sat-nav as I have. I don't know.
That's a very interesting theory, It's very interesting indeed. The same, you know, you've been going about banana trees and everything as well of late.
Well, that wasn't mine. That was.
I know. But it came home saying, "Did you know that bananas?"
Well, where do banana trees come from? They don't have a seed.
What?
So how can they
What's
go?
that got to do with aliens?
I know.
Well, the point is, did an alien bring it to Earth?
What? Sorry, I'm confused.
Well, see, to grow a tree, to any plant, you need a seed. Yeah. Well, banana plants don't have seeds.
No, but yeah.
So they can't be planted. So where did the first one come from if there are no seeds to plant a banana tree? Because you can only get a banana tree from another banana tree. Look at do you know what? I've never ever seen so many blank looks in one room at one side. Even the crew, they're all literally going. Anyway, but that's. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying I think banana trees are something we should look into. It's not a conspiracy theory.
It's just going back to the time travel thing.
Yeah.
It's because, and that's why people have to be regressed, and then they remember these things because they're not allowed to alter the time. So they obviously they do what they need to do, the probe, and then they wipe their memory, so they can't.
And the probe, hopefully, I hope they wipe that probe.
They can't change anything. That's what I'm saying.
But I think but you wouldn't be able to interact. That's the point. You wouldn't be able to interact with someone because, in all honesty, they wouldn't actually really be there anymore.
I'm confused now. You've lost me.
Well,
Are you still talking about time travel?
Yeah, because the planet that you've just seen blow up is gone. It went a million years ago, but we're just seeing it. So you can view it, but you can't interact with it because it's not really there.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
So they could come back and view us, but we wouldn't really be there because we've actually already gone.
Right. So they're basically seeing like a tape recording, as it were.
Yeah.
And there's a point of, can you bend light? Which you can bend light, and if you can bend light, therefore, is that not, you're not getting somewhere within the fourth dimension?
You should be doing a science project. This should be open university. You should have a blackboard and a huge pointer, and you should have sort of a shirt.
And probe somebody with my black pointer.
And probe somebody with that. But going back to the alien abduction thing, with the apparently in a lot of cases, they all without. There's actually as well in America and England. There's a lot of counselling groups where these poor people have to get together because their lives have never been the same since. They're in such a mess. They're so disturbed by what's happened to them, and they're terrified of going to sleep at night because it's not just once. Apparently, it's happening again and again and again. They'll get into bed and then they'll hear the door creaking, or they'll see a bright light or whatever. And I think to be so terrified that you have to go to a counselling group, and it's not, and these people are complete strangers, and they're all meeting and they're all describing the same thing, the same pattern is happening, and that's what I find interesting.
But I think that one of the things that sort of takes some of the credibility away from their stories, and I'm not knocking them. I know we've had a bit of fun with it, but I do feel deeply for some of these people because they actually do believe they have been taken, and they've been messed around with in space or wherever, and it must be horrific if you really do believe that, because you just don't feel safe wherever you are, and I do. I feel for those people, and I'm not saying that they're all nuts. I'm really not. Okay, I've had some fun with it, but in all honesty, I'd love to know more about that, but. And I remember seeing a documentary about this, the same person said that I've been abducted on a regular basis. So why don't they have CCTV footage all the way around their house, everywhere they possibly can? You've got CCTV footage that can record for 30 days at a time, and probably longer now. So they could constantly have that and have proof that some sort of alien thing had come down and actually abducted them. They'd have proof of it. Especially if it happens on a regular basis. Wouldn't you do that? I think
there's a lot of stuff that's covered up as well. I think the government covers up an awful lot of things. And not just about UFOs, but about flipping everything. But I genuinely do believe that. And I think I've heard some stories as well where, if you get to know a little bit too much about UFOs, I've heard that people have gone missing and some very strange things go on. It's almost like there's only so much you're allowed to talk about.
The trouble is nowadays, it's so out there, isn't it? The UFO thing, because it's everywhere. It's in schools. It's talked about as if it really does happen.
Yeah. But also, we had this chat before about why does it seem to be a 1940s, 1950 thing? I know people have seen things in skies before then, but there's not a great deal of conversation about it. But there is about when the Cold War started.
Maybe development of planes and so on. But what about Rendlesham Forest? The very famous, if not possibly one of the most famous cases of a UFO that was spotted, and it was basically a US Army base, wasn't it, Karl? And these people came down, the officers were in the woods, and they actually touched the side of a craft, and they actually described hieroglyphics. And it wasn't just one soldier, it was a couple of soldiers that saw it. And it didn't just happen once, it happened a couple of times. It burnt the ground, there was all sorts of odd things. And this is what your point was, is that they actually went to speak to the villagers who'd all seen the same thing. And they were all happy to talk on camera, they were all happy to get to be interviewed. Yes. They came back the following day, they wouldn't answer their doors, nothing, absolutely. They weren't allowed to talk to anybody. Why?
I think that is a great question to end this on. We've run out of time. We've run quite over, so we're probably not getting into our next programme at this present moment in time. But please, thank you so very, very much for joining me, Geoff Adams, Yvette Fielding and Catherine Howe.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll come back and we'll talk more about this interesting subject. But please join us again next time. Thank you very much indeed.